Don't you tell me about my life goals. I'll be as loud as I want to be. We are going live right now.
You and your life goals.
We got a half hour of movie trailers.
Really?
That many? Really?
Yeah, we sat down and I right as the movie trailers were about to start, we sat down. So I'm sitting there trying to silence my phone and everything. My brother calls at that exact moment. And so I had to send him to voicemail and be like, I'll call you later. We're in the movie theater. And we watched 8, 9 trailers or something. And I was like, my God, this was a lot. And then I went and checked my phone after, and it had been 28 minutes.
That's a lot of trailers. I do want to see it. I watched the first Deadpool movie last night, and I'm going to watch the second one maybe tomorrow, and then I'll see if I can dip out for the third one on Sunday. Because I'm kidless on Sunday, so I can just kind of sneak out. I really do want to see it, because I like those movies. That's like the role made for Ryan Reynolds. I'm glad he got a chance to play it.
Wolf, we're live, so spoil it all. Let's go.
No.
No, I'm not doing that.
Well, really
avoid spoilies. If that's what get us canceled.
I actually had a small thing, a cameo spoiled for me because the word didn't make sense. And I was like, what is this word? So I checked the article and I was like, oh, now it makes sense. And now that moment is spoiled. But I didn't care. It was neat anyway.
Don't say a word, because I've watched one of the trailers of all of them that they've put out.
Yeah, it's pretty bad with trailers these days. I don't want to watch any of them because they spoil half the movie, and Marvel's particularly bad. So I did hear for this one, to avoid some spoilers, they did release some fake announcements, fake leaks to try and kind of persuade people or dissuade people from the path. So
that also sounds very Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah, but I know, was it San Diego Comic-Con's going on right now? So I think there was a bunch of announcements there that I want to look at. I think I heard the next saga of Marvel is the Mutant Saga. We'll see what that looks like.
They announced Galactus or whatever via drones above above San Diego Comic-Con.
Oh, like a drone show, right?
Yeah, but it was like Galactus or whatever his name is. It was his head, and then it did the 4 with the.
Yeah. Oh, neat.
Oh, they're gonna put Galactus in with the.
Oh yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's supposed to be like a retro Fantastic Four movie they're doing, like Pedro Pascal 1970s aesthetic. I think is what they're planning. So could be good. I don't know.
That guy sucks.
Face is a 1970s aesthetic.
That guy's awesome. Pedro Pascal's great.
Yeah, I do.
And we're just looking to get canceled this episode. Yeah. Let's go ahead and talk about how.
Yeah, are we ready? Are we ready?
Yeah, we're good to go.
Let's flash this game to death.
All right, gentlemen. You know why we're starting late? I was hurrying up to make dinner, and I sliced my finger open, and now my clothing is all bloodstained. I'm never going to get it out today on. Fiscal whatever over the intro.
Don't discuss our finances. We're rolling in that podcast money.
Hey everybody, welcome to another Press B to Cancel, your favorite podcast that's talking about bleeding.
Are we talking Air Trees more? Are we going to talk Elden Ring and blood builds?
Sure. No, we have beaten that tree. Well,
No, we haven't. Jake and I are going to review it later.
Oh, dear Lord.
We can't do a fourth episode on Elden Ring, Chard. What are you, nuts? We can't do that.
For those that didn't get from the intro or the title that's on our live stream or whatever, we're talking Bloodstained, Symphony of the Night.
Ritual of
the Night. Thank you.
It's ROTN, not SOTN.
Don't sue us.
Don't sue us. We're talking Bloodstained. A game that I've started and stopped. It might be a good candidate for a Sisyphean for me, because I've probably started and stopped this game 6 times. We're talking about that today. I'm not alone though. I'm joined by 3 of my favorite people. Well, 2, and Chard. Chard, how are you?
Better now. Now that that's all out on the table. I hate it here.
The transparency is important on our team, right?
I see that. Yes.
I'm joined by two of my favorite people, and Wolf. Wolf, how are you today?
Ah, so good. Unbelievable. You have no idea.
Awesome. And I'm joined by two more of my favorite people, and Jake. Jake, how are you today?
See, the important thing is to use some, like, what's that, Tide stain remover pen? You can get them at Costco. Those were not sponsored.
But don't eat the pods.
No, don't eat the pods.
Yeah,
I mean, unless you
okay.
want to. I'm not going to stop you. Everybody here is
So
listening to
committed
an
back.
adult.
Chard, you look like you got that.
Yes,
A little bit.
yeah. Anyway, so as I said, I've started and stopped this game. This game, as far as I understand it, is kind of a spiritual successor to the misnamed game I referenced a moment ago, Castlevania Symphony of the Night. This was also a Kickstarter, if I'm correctly remembering.
Yes.
Who wants to talk history on this?
I'm going to ask a question so that someone can talk the history about it, because I want to make sure that I'm right. But didn't the team that did the Symphony of the Night, or at least like the lead person that created Symphony of the Night, was involved, if not totally involved, in this project?
Yes. So I can answer that.
Whatever his name is.
Koji Igarashi.
Yeah, that's it.
Iga.
And he is kind of considered the godfather of the Metroidvania Castlevania, because I think he took over with Symphony of the Night.
Didn't they call it an Ichivania? Isn't that like the
Igavania.
nickname or the term
Igavania,
Igavania?
yeah.
Right? Instead of just a Metroid, it's the Igavania.
Yeah.
Right. So he is, I mean, he's the one who applied that mechanical system to Castlevania in the first place. I believe Symphony of the Night was the first Castlevania he got to helm.
I think it's one of his earliest games as well. He was a young developer when he was doing Symphony of the Night. Like, he was not that experienced.
He took Castlevania to a whole new level.
Yeah.
Whole new level.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Who wants to kind of lay this out? Tell me about Symphony of the Night, because I also have started and stopped that game a lot.
Really? You didn't play? You haven't finished Symphony of the Night?
No.
Oh, shit.
I badged that thing. I love that game.
Essentially, what Symphony of the Night did was take Castlevania and apply the Super Metroid sensibilities to it. The mini-map system, the hidden things everywhere, secrets, multiple bosses,
Wall food?
exploring at your own... What's that?
Wall food?
No, that's
Still wall
Castlevania
meat.
sensibility.
That's Castlevania. Yeah.
But yeah, that's basically what it was. Is it applied all the stuff you expected from Super Metroid to Castlevania, but gave it a little bit of an RPG funk instead of the action RPG funk, where it's just like, here's your, you get another block of health, another block of health, another block of health, or X amount of power ups. Instead, it was you had an equipment system and HP and magic system and all that, and so you had to manage your resources and things like that.
You can grind too. You can level up in that one, if I'm not mistaken. There was actually an XP system to increase strength.
Yes.
And you couldn't distribute it. I think it was just like a blanket, upgrade or whatever that you get.
Right. And I think if I'm not mistaken, if I'm remembering correctly, the experience system in that worked like Suikoden, to where as you got stronger, the amount of XP you got from enemies got squished down.
Yep.
So it became harder to level.
Yeah, you definitely gained power from it, but I think the biggest jumps in power in Symphony of the Night was the items that dropped, right? Because there's such a large number of items that dropped in that game. It was really mind-blowing. When we say like taking the Metroidvania or Metroid stuff to it, it was that plus so much more, right? The half RPG mechanics, there's spells in the game, the combat was melee focused, and just so many items. It's
there's
really
a lot.
interesting.
I think every enemy has at least 2 items, one with a higher drop and then one with a 2 to 5% drop that you had to go and find. But every monster you fought had some kind of item drop, maybe armor or weapon, food, or something that you could use later on. You could get lucky and get some really powerful weapons from some random ass monsters running around the building.
But to really truncate this a little bit, but move forward also, it was sort of, I hesitate to use the term refined, because not all entries were, improved upon necessarily. But we got Castlevania Circle of the Moon, which was another Metroidvania. Then we got Harmony of Dissonance, then Aria
Right.
of Sorrow, then
Sorrow. Yep.
Dawn of Sorrow, and then Order of Ecclesia. Oh no, Portrait of Ruin, then Order of Ecclesia.
Yeah.
Wow.
These names, honestly, like that's Sinister. When you flubbed the name of Ritual of the Night, there's good reason because I
Yeah.
did the same damn thing before
Aria
this
of
episode.
Sorrow, Dawn
They're
of Sorrow.
so flowery, these titles.
So we're
Fucking
talking
Dash of
Aria.
Sorrow.
We're talking Aria of the Stained Ritual Night tonight.
Samsung Zenith of Sorrow.
I don't think we're allowed to talk about that on YouTube.
No, we're probably not. All these games are going to get us canceled immediately.
Yeah. But I think when this Kickstarter first came out, I think it was 2015 when the Kickstarter launched, and it had it's something stupid like a $500,000 goal, and it was definitely not name recognition from like Bloodstained is a pretty generic game name to me, and Ritual of the Night does not improve things. The reason I was interested was because it was supposed to be like it's a love letter to Castlevania from the guy who made the genre, basically, right? Like Igarashi himself. So. But I think it raised $5.5 million on Kickstarter. It was one of like the last most successful games on Kickstarter, because you don't really hear a lot of indie titles cleaning up on Kickstarter like they used to. There's a good couple year period where there's a lot of success stories, and this is one of those, but not so much lately. So I thought that was interesting. $5.5 million for this.
It looks like 2017.
Let's also clarify on this as well. Bloodstained is a series. So
Yes, it is.
Bloodstained Ritual
I mean-
of the Night is its own game, which is what we're talking about. But Bloodstained also has two other games that are more Castlevania-esque in the side-scrolling with the retro
Yeah, classic
graphic
Vania,
art.
as it's referred
Right.
to.
Yep, and the 2D look, while Ritual of the Night is more 3D-esque looking and more of the Igavanian style playthrough.
Yeah, the other
And
two are
those
like
were Curse of
8-bit
the Moon.
style. Curse of the Moon,
both
yeah,
Curse
1
of
and
the Moon,
2,
1
and they
and
were done
2.
by Inti Creates, which I think, I mean,
Yeah.
we've talked a lot about Inti Create games on this podcast. Like we pretty much love
Blaster
what they
Master
do with their work.
Zero, Gunvolt.
Yeah,
Oh,
Did
they
these
did Blaster
come-
Master Zero?
Hmm?
It looks, now that I see it now when I play.
Yeah, they did Blaster Master Zero.
Did these come before or after?
They came
first
after
one
the
came
Kickstarter, but before Ritual of the Night was released.
yeah.
Okay.
Right.
They're like a
Okay.
prequel
Came
to
after
Ritual of the Night,
Ritual,
I think.
Okay. So we've got a little time weirdness there.
Well, because
Yeah. Well,
in the Curse of the Moon, you play as one main character, and in Ritual of the Night, you play as another main character, but you see the other characters from Curse of the Moon in Ritual of the Night as NPCs or blank, whatever else is out there.
Well, actually, in Curse of the Moon, you actually play as 3 characters. You got Miriam, Zengatsu, I think his name is, and Alfred. if I'm not
Zentetsu.
wrong.
or Zengetsu, yeah.
Kanzutite, yeah. So in those 3 characters, and it's like, I think it's like a prequel to Ritual of the Night, if I remember right. But Ritual of the Night stars Miriam, but we can talk about later how there is also multiple characters in Ritual of the Night as well. But Circle and Moon kind of focused on this Castlevania 3 style. You have 3 characters and you switch between them type of thing. So it was kind of neat for that game.
Nice. Okay. So let's talk about why we're talking about this tonight. Wolf, do you want to?
So basically what happened is I've been meaning to play this. Like I heard about it when the Kickstarter came out. I was super excited about it then. And then I was really excited about it when it released, but I didn't purchase it right away because I saw a lot of people saying, oh, it's buggy for this. It doesn't run well on the Switch, stuff like that. So I was like, well, I'll give it time. And then eventually I picked it up on deep discount and then still didn't play it for a couple of years. And so I finally just played it in the last 2 weeks. After the Dominique's Curse DLC released, I was like, okay, that looks really cool. I want to play that, but I want to play the main game first. So I played the main game front to back, like 100%ed it. I think Miriam was level 99 by the time I got to the last boss. Like I ground everything out. I had one of every item that you can get in the game on a standard playthrough.
Nice.
So what you're saying is you could have been much more dedicated to this game.
Maybe a little bit.
Dude, you destroyed this game. I'm laughing at how much you played this game in the last few weeks. Because like I I did pick this up when it came out, but at the time the Switch was fairly new for me, so I was playing everything on the Switch. And man, did this disappoint on the Switch. It ran like crap. It's a lot better today, but at launch it was awful. The frame rate was terrible, and for a game that is basically a 2D game and an indie title, I thought it would run fine on the Switch because everything else does at the time. But this ran terrible, so I kind of bounced off it initially. But I would go back and visit it because since release, they've released multiple DLCs, right? Like cosmetics, new characters, all kinds of great stuff. And I would always revisit it on the Switch, and it would never play very well. So I want to talk about this because I was debating going back to it now on Steam, because now I have a Steam Deck, and it runs great on the Steam Deck in 2024.
Yeah.
I didn't know there was any DLC for this because I got it for PS4 many moons ago. So of course I'm not playing it very often unless I turn on my PS5. So I'm not getting any updates that there's DLC. And you guys are like, yeah, there's like a whole nother game attached to it. And I was like, what? When did this happen? And I was like, they must have shadow dropped it or some shit. That's crazy. No, I just didn't have it on Steam, so I had no idea that it was released, because that's literally where I get all my gaming news these days, is for fucking Steam.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, because like, what do you want? Do you want to start with the DLC, Wolf?
no. Let's start with the main game.
Yeah.
And there's gonna be a few spoilers in this podcast. The game's a few years old at this point.
La 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 la.
And honestly, the new DLC, if you've read about it at all, it spoils a little bit of the main game anyway. So that's the spoiler I'm going to get into. So it's not going to be. And honestly, the story in the game is nothing spectacular.
Yeah.
That was probably the weakest point of the game in my mind, was the story. But Ritual of the Night, like, it kicks you off into this world that feels like what's a good way of describing it? It feels like an unlicensed Castlevania.
Yeah.
Which, I mean,
yeah,
it
You're not
makes
wrong.
sense. But
you
it
fire it
does.
up and you feel like you're gonna go, Nintendo's coming after you. Like when I read the title of the game as Ritual of the Night, bear in mind, I literally just finished playing Symphony of the Night for however long it took me to badge that goddamn game. And then this was like a gift where I was like, this game is really good. Somebody's like, here, play this. And I went, I'm going to get sued. I can't play this. Someone's coming after me for this shit. Ritual of the Night? Really? I'm in trouble. But, you know.
You had your groundskeeper Willie moment where it's like,
yeah.
do you want to get sued?
You want to get sued? It seemed so.
I felt that way
know.
when we
It
played
was a
Power
joke
World.
game.
I felt that
Yeah.
way when we played Power
Yeah.
World together. I
Yeah.
was like, are they going to shut down my internet?
They're coming for my PC.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry.
All
But,
right.
I mean, you fire the game up, and here's how it went for me. I fired the game up, started a new file, and immediately it's like, you have this, you have this, you have this. I was like, I don't know what
Right.
any of this is. I've never
Right.
played the game before.
I have
Yeah.
none of this. What do you mean?
I got bombarded with a bunch of like update
Right.
news. The first time I played it, I was like, I don't know what any of this means. Just chill the fuck out.
Click.
Let me play the game. So, and then the first thing it asks you when you go to start a character or start a file is like, all right, what do you want to name the file? The second thing is, which character do you want to play?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I still don't know anything about it.
Uh-huh.
Well, because when this game launched, they had promised Zangetsu. I know I said that wrong, but at launch they only had Miriam, the main character. They didn't have anything else at all at the beginning. Like, they had a lot of great plans that were unlocked because of the Kickstarter, but none of that was in the game when it first launched. So it's kind of interesting that you're bombarded with all this cool stuff that you would have had when it first launched.
That's all
Yeah.
the stuff we wanted when we turned it on.
But as soon as you start the file, so I chose Miriam, thinking, okay, well, that's the one at the top. She's probably the main character. Like, I've managed to avoid spoilers for this game all this time. No idea how, but
Me too.
then it starts giving you story, and it's narrated, and
Badly.
which is surprising because it's David Hayter.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the Salt Snake guy? Really? What is he in
Yeah,
this?
the narrator was David Hayter. Like, all I could hear while he was talking was Metal Gear.
Oh,
And I
wow.
was like, what?
Okay.
And
I
then
didn't
he's
recognize
also
his voice at all.
Zangetsu.
Okay.
But I mean, even Carrie Walgren is in this game. I don't know if you're familiar with who she is. She was on SNL for a season or two. She gets smaller parts in a lot of movies. So even she's in it. So they got some like actual Hollywood talent outside of just the video game voice actor crews, right?
I'm glad for that, but it sounds for me it sounds like it's not A-list actors. Like I felt the voiceover in this was one of the weaker parts of the game. Like I do like this game, but the opening cinematic and when they're explaining what the lore is with Miriam, and then the voice acting in the beginning with the cutscenes where you're talking to Johannes, I think it is. I felt that dialogue was awful, like Final Fantasy X awful to me.
Hey!
Like,
watch yourself.
Well, the quest lady that sends you out to kill all the monsters, kill those murderers dead.
Kill those murderers dead.
Every single quest accepted. And you're usually accepting like 3 to 5 of them at a time.
Oh,
so you just
some anger issues.
Yeah, I'll do it. Kill those murderers dead. And then you have to talk to her again to accept the next one. And it's like, oh my gosh. So no, the voice acting in this was not great. However, if you remember Symphony of the Night, it wasn't particularly special in that either.
No, it wasn't.
No, you're true.
How
That's
about
true.
you?
Like, memorable, yes. Great, not necessarily.
What is a man?
So B-movie material here with an A-level game.
For sure.
Yeah.
Essentially.
So really, Bloodstained to me, as I started playing through it, it feels like a total love letter to all the Igavania Castlevanias. It's got it kind of pulls from all of them. Like it's easy to look at it and be like, okay, it's a semi 3D Symphony of the Night. To a point, that is true. But it picks and pulls aspects from the various other games. Like a good example is the shard system. It's very much like the soul system in Aria and Dawn of Sorrow, where you kill a monster, you collect its soul, and then you have that ability. And that's, you kill the monsters in this, they drop their shards. And, when I've been talking about it, I refer to them as souls. Like, even when I'm talking to myself, I'm like, where the hell, like, and I'll get to this in a bit, but I've been playing the randomizer mode, and I'm like, okay, what the hell? I need to get the soul from this monster. I'm like, oh, there's shards.
Yeah, because isn't the idea of this game is you're not a vampire like Castlevania, right? You're not Alucard, but you're infused with demonic crystal shards.
You're like a
power?
demon witch, like sort of, kind of, like that's kind of your.
So the crux of the story is basically these children were experimented on, infused with demonic shards, crystal shards, and that's how they got their powers. So the main character, like, that's how she got her powers. She can control the shards. They make reference of other characters in the world being able to do that. And it was the Alchemist Guild that did this. And the reason they did this was partly to stoke fears of the people, to be more mindful of demonic powers coming into our realm.
That's an awful way to
Just
teach
so you
people.
know, it's here. We got it. We found it.
You should fear that and support us. And here's the reason. This thing that we created is why you should fear that. Like, it sounds a lot like something we're dealing with these days in the United States.
It's a political story.
It's a manufactured fear, basically.
Okay.
Jake, is there a reason you froze on the cat?
Sorry, we can talk about monsters later, but when we're talking about low budget feel, one of the monsters is a giant demonic cat.
Oh, the giant cat?
Yeah, the cat.
A cute cat.
I think it's actually.
I love that. There's like 3 of them. And I'll talk about that real quick.
Programmers or somebody's like animal. There's like pulled people's things put into this game. Like the portraits are people that donated like high into the Kickstarter, the backers. And I think some of them were like, put my animal in there. So that's why there's a giant demon cat in there. So
it just feels so out of place.
And I love
the
cats because they all, like, all the 3 giant cats have the same animations.
Right.
And they're all like, when you're too close, they like bat at you. That's their attack. Yeah. And then when they die, I love it because it looks like they just gave up.
Yeah, right.
It just looked like, oh, woe is me.
Over dramatic cat death.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I know we're
But,
selling
yeah, a
this
lot of
game
the
right now. It does feel like low budget, but there is a lot they like in this game. But there's definitely a cheese factor to it that is not what I
there
thought when I
is,
first played it.
But it's like I think
and
it's a charming kind of thing to me.
Well,
absolutely. I
from
do not mind the cheese level at all.
I mean, the reason that I bought it is because basically I was told if you like Symphony of the Night, you should play this game. Like it's that level of quality.
Mhm.
And you know, I mean, I think that it does do that. B movie acting aside, I think it does that.
Yes.
I just need to finish it. By the way, I own it twice. I looked. I have it on Steam and on GOG. So
Just
what do
supporting
you
those
do?
indies. That's
Yeah.
it,
Let's- I know what we're doing next year.
Yeah. This might be my Sisyphean for 2025. We'll see.
Well, I do
Okay.
recommend it for anybody who's been thinking about playing it and hasn't. Absolutely recommend it. It was so much fun. The grind did not feel too much like a grind, and that's because of the way they handled the mechanics that affect drop rates. You can really manipulate that to your advantage and make it so it's not the most painful grind in the world for things. And I didn't look up anything in this game my first playthrough. Like, I got stuck at one point for probably 10 hours. I did not look anything up until I figured out how to get from A to B. And I was like, oh. And that's because this game actually has a very small amount of puzzles that are very much like the Super Metroid puzzle in Meridia, if you guys remember that. The first time you're playing through Super Metroid, you may not get it. But later playthroughs, it's obvious that you use a power bomb in that glass tube and it breaks the glass tube and it lets you explore Meridia.
Yep.
You don't know that at first. The game never sets up a rule for that.
Right.
But there it is. That's one of the things. This game kind of does that same thing. It doesn't set up a rule for using that for traversal right off the bat. But yes, that's a thing, is using the shards for traversal in points. And so once I figured that out, I was like, okay.
There's a lot of like the map in the game is really confusing. At least it was for me. Like I got lost quite a bit playing it. I probably wasn't as good as Wolf was about looking shit up because I was like, I'm tired of beating my head against this wall trying to figure out where to go or what chariot to ride or which way to turn. And I'd go back to like old boss arenas and I'm like, Jesus, I've already been here like 800 times. Where the hell do I go for the next thing? So I might have cheesed it a few times to look it up, but it is very vast,
Right.
and very easy to get lost in.
So in Metroidvania
I
games, usually
actually-
there's usually like items or abilities that will gate you to certain parts of the map. I
Like
thought I
Metroid?
played a lot of Bloodstained, but I don't think I played that enough to get to those. Like, what are the gatekeeping items in this game that kind of prevent progress? So you have to unlock. Like Symphony of the Night was like a double jump, for example, or a jump boots, I think, or the animal forms. This doesn't have that, does it?
It does. It has a double jump.
Okay.
It also has I don't know if you saw her whip out that giant hand that grabbed onto the item. You'll have large objects that are in your way that have like a silver glow around them. That giant hand can whip out and pick it up, and then you can move
Okay.
it around.
Okay.
So that's a thing. But there's also, like I said, I'll give you an example. It's one that drops off a boss, is the reflector ray. So it lets you point that ray at mirrors, and you see, like, that's explained to you because the boss does it in his room. And
Okay.
so you see that you bounce off of those mirrors and it lets you traverse further than it would just on its own. And so you can use that in certain points. You'll have seen the mirrors by the time you fight that boss that you're like, oh, okay, I go back there and I go up that way. So there's things like that that are definitely shown, not told. But then there's like the one that I got stuck on was one that was a little bit more obtuse. And it was just a shard that I assumed was just an attack shard. And it was not. It was actually useful for getting around.
Huh. Okay.
And I don't
Do you
know
say
if
what it
I
is, or
should
is that a big
spoil that
spoiler?
here or save it for people who haven't played.
Okay. Maybe hang on to it then. Okay.
Yeah.
Because that one, once I figured that out, like I was simultaneously super impressed with the game for not making it super obvious, and annoyed with myself for not reading through descriptions of things.
Oh, so
Okay,
it's
gotta
Elden
read that.
Ring.
Gotta
It's
read
Elden
that
Ring.
item description, man. How else are you
Yes,
gonna know
had
the
I-
story?
First off, I hadn't actually collected that shard yet, so I was at a point where I was like, okay, I'm gonna go around and collect all the shards. And then I still got stuck for a while. And then I was like, all right, let me read the shards. And once I read it, I was like, oh, I'm just dumb.
So that sounds like so in Symphony of the Night, I've known people who've played Symphony of the Night and only played half the game because they didn't realize in that game there's a whole there's a whole other castle where it's upside down. But to
It's like
unlock
24
it, you
years
have
old.
to use a certain item at a certain encounter. Otherwise, you don't get half of the game, basically. So is it
Yeah.
kind of like that obtuse where you can totally miss it that way, or you think it was a little bit more reasonable to find?
So it's very similar to the
Okay.
at the end of Symphony of what you perceive as the end of Symphony of the Night, you can just kill Richter and boom, bad ending. You can do
Right.
that in this.
Okay.
Otherwise, you have to find your way to this other area to be able to advance and not get the bad ending.
Right.
Okay. All right.
It's like it's a very, very much similar story plate that you do where you
Mhm.
either kill something you
'Cause-
shouldn't to get the bad ending or find out a way around that to get the continuation.
Yeah,
of
that'll
of
advance
game.
the plot and it'll tell you how to do things so that you're not just outright killing this guy, but instead taking on what's got a handle on him and stopping that.
Okay. So it's like Deadpool. Sorry, I watched that last night where the one scene where Colossus is like, you only have 4 or 5 moments to be a hero. So you can be a murder hobo for the entire time in the game, but there's that one couple spots where maybe you should just think about it for a minute. There's
Yes.
realize something else
Well,
you can do.
I guess I don't need to be super obtuse about it because you're introduced to the characters right off the bat, and they make it
Right.
pretty
Yes.
clear. So this game has an analog to Richter and Shaft, which is Jeeble, which I never would have thought that's how you'd pronounce his name. Reading it,
Gerbil.
it looks like Gebel, but
It does look like
apparently
Emily.
it's Jeeble.
Yeah.
And then a demon that's always accompanying him, Gremory. And that's
Not
who Kerry
Gemry?
Walgren plays, by the way. But yeah, that was like there's a way to take out Gremory in the fight with him instead of killing him directly.
Oh, that is a lot like Shaft then. Okay. So, I
Yeah,
mean, that
like,
it's a neat
it's-
callback to the game it was based on, right?
He's
that's
one
interesting.
bad mother. Shut your mouth.
Honestly, like that's one of the few gripes that I have with this game is it feels like it borrows a lot from Symphony of the Night. There's
Okay.
even a giant waterfall that you kind of come into the exact same way, and it's got secrets on both sides at the top and bottom, just like in Symphony of the Night.
But
The
I mean,
theme
wasn't that
is ritual of the night.
yeah,
I mean,
wasn't
yeah.
that kind of the
That's what you
point
want.
though? I
It's
mean,
like I'm gonna have a nice drink of my Pepsi or my fucking to Coke.
yeah.
Delicious,
Look,
delicious Dr. Pepper.
I prefer delicious lemon lime spite.
Yeah,
Yeah, this
I
is
mean,
the Dr. Thunder of pop. Yeah.
I was gonna
Okay.
say it's like AI designed your Coke can. The same thing.
But yeah, that's one of the things that very much lends it to being like an unlicensed Castlevania.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I think
I
I
mean,
do
the
think that's the point,
gameplay-
but that's okay. Yeah.
yeah, and
Well,
I'm fine
and-
with that. The gameplay was great. It seems like they've got a plan for moving forward with the franchise with sequels, given how the DLC ended.
Well, and to be honest, for people like me who didn't play Symphony of the Night, now I do have a way with my Mister to play Symphony of the Night on modern hardware today, right? I mean, I guess modern hardware, whatever we're calling the Mister. But you know, I mean, sure you could emulate, but this feels like essentially, hey, we're going to give you mostly a Symphony of the Night that can run on, you know, today.
Yeah. And
So
I do want to point out that at least now, with a couple of options tweaks, because it does not start with that the proper resolution when you first fire it up on your Steam Deck. But if you alter the options just a bit to give it the right resolution, oh, it looks so good on Steam Deck. It
Yeah.
plays so well. It's great.
You have to go configure it to the 800p.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. Instead of the
Because I'll
PCM.
probably spin it up tonight after we're done talking on my Steam Deck. And so
Yeah.
I'll set it to the 800p.
I played
Yeah,
it for about 45 minutes, and then I was like, man, this does not look that great. And then I was like, I wondered. I went into the graphics, and I was like, oh, it's the wrong resolution. So it
4K
actually starts
on
at like
Steam Deck.
720p or something.
Yeah.
And so it looked extra blocky. And then once I put it to the proper resolution, looked amazing.
Well, it makes sense. The Steam Deck is specifically not 720, which confuses a lot of games, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I will say, like, this is a game, playing this game on a big screen TV doesn't look as great as you might want it to be. I think this game shines definitely on a handheld device. That's another reason why I like it on the Switch.
I didn't play it on a big screen TV, but I did play it on this monitor in front of me for a little bit, for probably about 12 of the roughly 90 hours I
90
played.
hours. You shared that image. It says 90 hours.
So that's embarrassing, but I did play it on this monitor
7
here.
achievements to
and
go.
It's
Come
a
on,
2160.
It's a
4K.
It's a 1440p.
Okay.
But it's like 28-inch, and it looked really good on it.
Wolf, you have almost as much time in this game as I did completing Witcher 3. Like 30 more hours. All you needed was 30 more hours.
Well, you have to factor in this is not like it's easy to be like, oh yeah, it was just the base game. No, it was not just the base game.
Right.
It was the base game. It was a little while in the classic DLC. It was quite a while in the randomizer mode. It was a fair amount of time in the chaos mode. And also the recent DLC Classic 2 was another probably 9-10 hours. So it was across all sorts of aspects of the game, not just one file.
Did you play the other characters at all or no?
Yes, I also did beat it as Zangetsu. And I played a little bit as the I can't remember her name, the character from Child of Light.
I want to say Arya, but I might be wrong. Or Aurora, I think, possibly.
Aurora, that's it. Yes.
So, did you realize there's another hidden character as well that you can play as?
No.
So you didn't beat the game fully.
Enjoy your 12 hours.
Who's the other character?
Bloodless. You know the boss with the blood and the umbrella? You can play as her. They released her as a DLC update at some time ago. So you enter Bloodless as your name in the character select screen, which is a callback to Symphony of the Night, where you could put like Axe Lord or whatever for different characters.
I don't think I'd want to play as her because there's a mode where you can play as the bosses, and I did not like it. And she was the character I picked, and I hated that.
So she does get upgrades as you play. So I think it's just another spin on the game. But they're definitely not the highlight. It's like playing as Richter in Symphony of the Night. You can do it, and I've done it, but it's not as fun as playing as Alucard, right?
No, I mean, Zangetsu was very much the Richter mode, and I really enjoyed that. That was a lot of fun.
Okay.
He didn't get any upgrades other than level ups and like extra health and mana, I think, or something. But
yeah, I've seen
Aurora
there's a streamer named Bobby,
actually
and he does speed runs as Zangetsu, and watching him play Zangetsu speed runs is wild because it's a lot of backdashing to speed through the levels. It's really a fun speed run to watch.
But yeah, Aurora actually does get upgrades as she plays, and then there was so do we want to go into more detail about the main game, or should we talk about the other modes?
I'm good. I mean, I'm playing active audience, and so I mean, I don't want spoilers myself, so I'm good talking about the other aspects.
I will say before we move on to the other stuff, the main game, the main campaign as Miriam, it sends you to some really interesting looking places, and sometimes some of the dialogue in the game is like cheesy on purpose. Like what I mentioned, that giant hand that grabs onto things. You meet a guy early on, the guy who runs the chariot back and forth. There's a big object in his way, and when you talk to him, he gives you a hint. He's like, there's something in my way, so I can't do anything. You could use a giant hand to move stuff. If you had a giant hand, you could do some wild and crazy things.
If
I was like, what?
if you were a character from Neverending Story, you could solve this problem. They look like such strong hands. Anyway.
Yeah. So it was kind of silly how they handled that. But I mean, tact is not this game's specialty. Let's say it that way.
Right.
But it was very good. And like some of the areas, like there's a point where you cross a bridge, and I don't want to spoil it for you, but it's not just crossing a bridge. It was a really cool locale.
Yeah.
Okay.
The area is called the Bridge of Evil, but you have to get a pass to be able to cross the bridge. So you need to find a thing to take a photo of yourself so that you can make the pass across the bridge. Like, it's really weird
Sure.
the way they handle things.
So you're a 17-year-old kid that wants to go into the bar.
Trying to get you either get a fake ID or you get a
Fake
pass.
ID.
Sorry, Jake. Don't mean to trigger you.
Yeah.
Okay, so there are other modes. As I said, and I didn't try the randomizer mode right off the bat. Jake was the one who told me you should try this after I had done all the other stuff.
Really fun.
So the first thing I did was fire up Zangetsu and played through the whole game as Zangetsu. And I will say I didn't like it as much as playing as Miriam, but it was still a lot of fun. I didn't hate it. But that one assumes it's a bad ending.
Okay.
So it's an ending that assumes Miriam did not accomplish her goal.
That's because the shards are randomized, I guess, so you can't get that one shard that you need. Oh,
yeah,
sorry.
well, the idea is that
right.
Zangetsu is the one who kills the boss instead of Miriam.
Okay.
And so it changes the trajectory of the ultimate story. And then there was classic mode, which I was like, okay, well, classic 2 just came out. I don't want to try that just yet. I'll try classic mode. And while it seems really cool, I could not stomach it. I tried.
Yeah.
I wanted to like it, but I don't know why. This game runs smooth like butter the whole game. Then you go into that DLC and it's got 15-second loading times between areas.
Yeah. It's
not
awful.
levels, areas.
And like the only thing they do differently with the graphics is they zoom it out a bit. So you're more like, Classicvania style sprite size. And I don't understand why that is enough to trigger 20-second load times, because you're not kidding. The load times are ridiculous. Like it's like they pulled the retro load times from the PlayStation era and threw it in this game. It's awful.
Maybe that's what they were going for.
Maybe.
I don't know.
They're like, you get the full
let's call back
experience.
the crap. Let's remember what we once had and how much we hated it.
Y'all like those old, black CDs? Let's go.
You know what's funny though is the original Symphony of the Night was I guess a pioneer in a way, because the way they solved load times was with the CD rooms where you just walk through a corridor and the time it took you to cross a corridor was the load times. I thought that was pretty
loading.
Neat. Yeah.
Which honestly, Ritual of the Night does the same thing between regions.
Well, and that was stolen by Dead Space, because you get on the elevator, you don't realize, but that elevator's a load screen.
Loading. Right.
But that's fine. At least you're like, it doesn't take you out of the game. It doesn't kill the immersion.
Right.
You don't feel like you're waiting on loading times, so it's not frustrating. Whereas between regions in classic Bloodstained, the classic mode, it is just literally black screen, little loading icon in the corner, 15-20 seconds of that.
Make a sandwich, go to the bathroom.
That feels like they're trying to throw the classic feel of like loading the game as well at you.
But I mean, if that's what they're doing, it's too much. I'd get maybe 3 to 5 seconds, but not sitting there staring at nothing for 15 to 20 seconds.
At least give me Miriam's face that we can stretch and pull nose out.
Pull on the nose. And,
yeah. Cross the eyes or something. Make the horns longer.
But what I will say about that is it plays very much like probably Castlevania 4 in the way the gameplay handles. And then you can actually enter a code at the title screen of classic mode that changes it to 1986 mode. and that makes it to where you can't jump and land on staircases and things like
Oh,
that.
no.
It makes it
Oh,
even
what?
it makes it
That,
control
though.
like Castlevania 1.
So you could jump through staircases
Which
now?
I thought was pretty neat.
I mean,
That's funny.
that's great, but that
Neat,
feels
but-
like a thing that you'd turn on and do like 3 jumps, and then you'd be like, okay, that's enough of that shit.
Like for me, the reason I bounced off classic mode, both of them, was because you get hit by an enemy and it has that classic Vania knockback, which is
The
just a
knockback.
motherfucker when you're near a pit or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Knockback.
But- After that, I tried the chaos mode, which I thought was really cool. And I wanted to try that with somebody before tonight's episode, but we didn't get the chance. Because it has a 2-player mode.
Which is weird.
Which-
What?
I'm really curious how that works because it's very
Yeah.
arcadey the way it works. You start on a. I hesitate to call it a level because it's just one of the big rooms from the game, and they use like 5 of them. There's essentially 5 stages, sandwiched by bosses. So it's stage, boss, 5 times. And then if you beat all 5, you've beaten that mode. But as you're playing through the stage, you get experience from killing the monsters, so you get level ups, you get stronger. You find equipment in a couple treasure chests in the room if you happen to come across them, and then you also are given a special task for that stage, be it kill everything in X amount of time, get to the end in X amount of time, don't hit anything, and don't use special abilities are the 5 I can think of that I saw. So there's all those. And if you make it to the end, you generally get a better bonus piece of equipment than you would have found on the stage. And then you're given a boss, and the boss is like a very weakened version of what the boss was in the game. Go on to the next stage and so forth. And it's fun. It's just like a short bite-sized mode. It's like, I think I beat it in 17 minutes when I finally was able to beat it. So it's not long.
There was Symphony of Night, one of the re-releases years after it originally came out on PlayStation. I'm gonna say Xbox 360. I could be wrong, but there's a multiplayer version of that. It might have been something stupid like Ouya or something, but it was a multiplayer Castlevania Symphony of the Night, and they probably drawing inspiration from that because I heard that was a blast to play if you get the players to do it. I'll have to check this out. I do want to try the 2-player because that is interesting. Because I know it kind of reminds me when you and I played Gal Guardian multiplayer.
Oh yeah.
So that was pretty interesting as well. So this kind of game, it could work with multiplayer. It does sound fun.
Yeah. And then so there's that mode which I liked. So after that I was like, all right, let me go and get the DLC Classic 2, Dominique's Curse. And this is very much Simon's Quest with some modern day quality of life improvements.
So day-night cycle.
Yes.
Yeah.
English
Instead it's
and translations
it's got
you
like
can understand.
So it's got like a blood moon cycle is what it is. So it's the
But a
regular
terrible
moon and then
night
the
to
blood moon
be
because
bloody
Yeah.
and moon.
Right.
you are in the DLC you're playing as Dominique, which that is going to be a spoiler for the main game, but you're playing as Dominique. She's in purgatory and trying to get out. And so that's your goal, is to get her out of purgatory. And so she travels this purgatory realm full of demons, trying to acquire all the things she needs to be able to get back out into, back to Earth. And it's clunky like Simon's Quest. It does have you can land on a staircase in midair kind of thing. Like that quality of life is there. In Simon's Quest, you had the whip upgrades that you could like buy a stronger whip and then a stronger whip and then a stronger, but you could essentially skip a weaker whip to get the next tier beyond that if you just saved up enough. This does away with that. Instead, what it does is you get objects that make your whip stronger and upgrades that make it longer.
So it's like Castlevania 1, but it's the upgrade combined. Instead of being combined, you get okay.
It's not replacing your whip. It's just upgrades. So you can buy them out of order. It's fine.
Yeah.
Your whip
Because
gets
this has
extends.
the towns, right? Simon's Quest, right? Towns, although they're populated with monsters as the NPCs. There's people give you hints. Like it is so much Simon's Quest. Like I hate it just because I hated Simon's Quest. Like I
And
played
it
it, but
does,
it was rough.
It has obtuse puzzles like Simon's Quest did.
Yeah.
But the NPC demons also give you clues to those things. And you don't have to go all the way. Like if you didn't pay attention, their dialogue is actually stored away in the menu. You can check it later. You don't have to go back to them to read it.
Oh, good.
So
That's
as
good.
long as you've spoken to a character, you keep track of their dialogue in your menu. So again, modern day sensibilities to make it quality of life improvements. But the map was actually really big, and I had a lot of fun with the levels too. Like it was just really cool playing. The music was great. It's very 8-bit.
Yeah.
I loved it. It was so much fun.
All chiptune-y.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool.
And the music was good too. Like it wasn't just like, chiptune that's like, oh, this is good because it's a chiptune and I enjoy chiptune.
It wasn't Super
actually,
Mario RPG.
No, it was actually good music.
Fantastic,
like
4
it was fun
bars.
to listen
It was
to,
actually
catchy.
good
Okay.
music. Nice.
Yeah, it was catchy. Like there was a couple of tunes just
Actually
stuck in my head for a few
good.
days.
That's awesome.
Mario
How are the
RPG
boss
doesn't have
fights
great
in the
music.
classic DLCs? Because like
doesn't.
Bloodstained, the main game of Bloodstained, the bosses were actually really awesome. Like screen filling, they were very good set pieces,
Yeah.
very, very
Yeah.
huge. Do the classic ones have that still, or they kind of do their own bosses more like the classic Vania games?
I don't know about Classic 1 because I could not make it to even the first boss with those loading times. I just got fed up.
Okay. Yeah, fair.
But
Yeah.
in Classic 2, it reuses bosses. So like there's a big boss, there's a giant room-filling boss in Ritual of the Night that has like giant poker chips and he's throwing coins at you and things like that. He's one of the bosses in Dominique's Curse.
Okay.
And they do share the same very, very last boss.
Okay.
Please tell me this room filling that's throwing chips and stuff at you is literally called Pit Boss.
Be good if it
I
was.
don't remember his name.
Yeah,
Because I
It's
mean,
like the gambler. You're like,
Yeah.
come on.
but still, Pit Boss, like,
Yeah.
anyway.
he
Card
was in
throwing
Circle of
boss.
the Moon, and in Circle of the Moon, it was coins. It was a room full of coins, and you had to jump on stacks of money to hit him. It was actually an awesome boss fight in Circle of the Moon.
His name is Valafar.
Oh, that's no good.
So that's
I'm just
Pit
gonna
Boss.
call him Pit Boss.
Yeah, Pit Boss is a much better name. But he's up there with Gerbil as a name. It's the naming in this was not great.
Gibbles.
Gibbles.
Gibbles and
But
bits.
I thought the level design in this was really good. And yes, it does have like pits of death. You fall in a pit and you die.
Yeah.
You fall in the water, you die, that sort of thing, right? And I know the DLC got some negative reviews for that, but it's like it's Simon's Quest,
Castlevania.
Yeah.
Get outta here.
obviously.
At least you can
But I
understand
guess-
what they're trying to tell you.
Right.
Yeah, but I guess it doesn't really convey that it's going to be that punishing in the DLC page. And so people who bought it probably didn't realize, oh, this is going to be like an NES game.
But again, I think that's what you want. I think in something like this,
Yeah.
where I may not have liked the Retro 1 or the Retro 2 one because I'm not a big fan of those Castlevania games as much. But the fact that they went to that degree to recreate those experiences in this game is you got to respect it. It's awesome, especially for those who like that kind of stuff.
And with a name like Classic, right? Classic 1, Classic 2. I mean,
Right.
what do you expect, right?
Yeah,
this
if you
not your
know what
target audience?
like that's the thing
Right?
too, is like in the base game, you don't have to purchase Classic 1. It was a
Mhm.
free DLC that's just
Yeah.
in the game. So if you played Classic 1 at all, and then you go and buy Classic 2 Dominique's Curse and expect something that plays more like the regular game, it's kind of on
Yeah.
you at that point.
Yeah.
Right.
Especially when they released a trailer for it. And the trailer is pretty clear what they're going for. Like when you see the
Yeah.
towns and you open the menu in the shop menu for the first time, you're like, oh, that's what they're doing, right? The day-night cycle. Yes, it's definitely NES inspired. And that's cool for those who like it. I do feel like this one being a paid DLC is probably them testing the waters to see on the interest in the franchise, because they've been working on this one so much over the last few years, just drip feeding new updates every few months. And I think they're just testing to see if people are still have an appetite for this game. I don't know, but hopefully it's sold well.
They need to do
because it's
better
neat.
about announcing this kind of shit, because this is something that I would totally be into, and I didn't even know it was there until you brought it up. I mean, I've been
Yeah, and
sitting on Ritual of the Night for literally for years. I mean, I beat it years ago, but it just seems like this would be something cool to add to the rest of it. I mean, I have Curse of the Moon, I have both of those, and those are fun. But
Yeah.
I really liked Ritual of the Night, and knowing that there's some DLC that brings in Simon's Quest to it, I think that would be a lot of fun to check out. So, don't shadow drop your shit, people. Come on.
Did they announce this
Yeah,
at
it
the
kind
Game
of came
Awards,
out of left
though?
field.
I
What's
thought
that?
I thought they announced at the Game Awards. I think they announced it a while ago, but then they just didn't do a release date, and then they just shadow dropped it. But I think they did announce
Probably.
it. I think, but yeah,
Well,
I don't know. I feel bad
over my
for
head.
like ignoring this game for so long now, but at the same time, I'm also glad I didn't get into it until after that DLC dropped,
yeah.
because now I got the full experience and
Yeah.
I'm absolutely loving it. It's so much fun. And I 100%ed the DLC as well. Like literally the file,
Oh wow.
I think where it's saved says 99%, and that's just because I need to go beat the final boss.
It's neat because this is like such a key genre right now. Like there's so many Metroidvania, especially like just even recently, last year and this year, there's a number of Metroidvanias that are coming out, and it's definitely a thing, especially in like the 60-bit pixel art style. There's a lot of them, and it can be hard to figure out which ones are worth your time and which ones aren't, because some of them are kind of short. Some are, the combat is not, we kind of bounce off of it. There's one that me and you played, Wolf, last year I thought was going to be, awesome, and it turned out to be kind of boring. But then you have
Which
something
one was
like,
that?
God, the one with the chips to upgrade your shots, I think. I'll have to look it up. It was a sprite based one, and I thought it was
so
gonna be really
memorable,
cool.
you can't even remember the
Can't
name.
remember the name. Yeah, but then you have something
I
like
mean, that's the case in point, right?
you have like Nine Souls, right? Came out, and that's killing
Yeah.
it. Of course, Hollow Knight, and everybody's
Souls
just
is
dying
awesome.
for a Silk
Well,
Song,
and
and these are all Metroidvanias that are going to kill. But there's a dozen other ones that have come out recently.
few
Yeah,
years
so
ago, The
Mariachi
Messenger.
Legends is coming out later this
Messenger.
year. That looks amazing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, Nine Souls
Yeah.
on my list. That looks like a phenomenal game.
But Bloodstained is
Nine
one that I
literally
hope
just
people
picked
don't
that one up.
forget.
Nine Souls is on my list too, and it gave me a bunch of points.
It's a fucking
I
fantasy
believe
critic.
Nine Souls
Hey,
is from
there.
the same people that are doing Mariachi Legends.
Oh, I can't wait for Mariachi Red Legends.
Yeah, the
For
Legends
those
looks
that-
really good.
Don't know. We're doing a team fantasy critic. What draft? Well, I guess it was draft, but
Draft,
whatever
yeah.
you want to call it. And I had Nine Souls, and it did all right for me.
Oh,
Well,
maybe it's not Nine Souls then. Is there something else? Nine Souls is the one that just came out then, right? Like a few months
Mhm.
ago.
A few
Yeah.
months ago, yeah.
Oh, okay. And
I
then
got
I think Humble just dropped one too. Bo was a Metroidvania as well.
I haven't heard that one.
Can't remember the full title, but it's
There's just so many of them,
and then
and
something.
a lot of the success of these newer ones, I think, is in due part because of how well Bloodstained was received. Right, like it kind of brought people to this genre again, and now it's just people are running with it. It's super
Sure.
popular.
Sure.
But
Well, awesome. Any other DLC we wanted to talk about, or any modes that you didn't cover?
yes, there's the randomizer mode. So after I beat the DLC 2, that's when Jake was like, "You should also try the randomizer mode." And I was like, "All right, fine." And I didn't have the highest expectations of it to be super interesting, but it's a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. I played through it once, and I didn't see anything too wild, and I like shuffled everything. And it's cool the kind of stuff they give you options for shuffling, because you can shuffle the quest, you can shuffle the alchemy, you can shuffle the shop, you can shuffle monster drops. And like with some of the things, you can make it shuffle to where it's like the same type of item pool. And some of it you just like shuffle everything. And I was like, just shuffle everything. I
Just shuffle.
absolutely shuffled as much as I could. And so
Put it in a can and shake it up.
my
Now, I
first
assume-
randomizer mode, I was maybe 10 minutes in and got the final armor.
Oh,
That's why I love these
And then-
things.
it doesn't.
And then
shuffle
like
the
a
map,
half
though,
hour
right?
later, what's that?
It doesn't shuffle the map, though, right?
No.
No.
Okay.
No, but
But
there's an option to shuffle
can
the
shuffle
save
save
rooms and the
rooms.
teleporters.
Yeah.
Yes. And I turned that on too. Which I kind of regret now and then, but I don't
Yeah.
mind. but yeah, it's got all that. And like a half hour after I found that last armor from the game, I found like one of the final weapons. And I was like, all right, I'm basically unstoppable at this point. And then I
It's
beat it. And then I'm doing a second randomizer run, and it is a struggle because the gear I've found blows.
that's why those are awesome though. Like I've been having I had a lot of fun with them. I'm trying to play Elden Ring straight right now, but I had a blast playing the randomizer for that mod. It's a randomizer mod, and it's hilarious. You're getting some great endgame gear, or you get nothing, and you're fighting with your fists for the first couple hours, and it's a blast. And I love how many options are there. Like it's so much fun for me. The randomizer. I wish more games had this mode because it just gives you more replay value for a game. And there's already a lot to do in this game, replay value wise, and this is just the icing on the cake. It's really quite good.
Yeah. And it's really neat. Like the randomizer mode has the ability to, and I didn't see anything like this in my first playthrough. It was all basically the same gear I had my first playthrough. But in the second randomizer playthrough, it's just throwing random wacky items in the shop and the alchemy. Like I can make Dan's head from Game Grumps in the alchemy shop.
Really?
Yeah, the item is called I'm Not So Grump, which I mean, I'm a huge Game Grumps fan, so I love it. Like I was like, yes. But and I like
funny.
Ninja Sex Party, but I haven't found the items to make it. But it's funny because like there's a scarf that's an end game scarf. And if I want to make it, it requires 5 swords, 4 eppies and a Hikari. And so those 4 eppies I could go buy from the shop across the hall. The Hikari, no clue. I haven't seen it yet. I don't know where to find it. But it's funny that it takes 5 swords to make a scarf.
That's
In-game
the fact
scarf.
that it randomizes the recipes is hilarious. So
yeah, and I mean, like the items I've seen, there's a potion that's like item string not found is the name of the item.
Nice.
And like there's one that's just like a paper plate smiley face that's a mask. There's a sword I can make that's like a gamer LED power strip.
Are you sure you haven't?
These are items I didn't see in the base game.
Are you sure you haven't been playing Balatro? These sound like jokers.
yeah, glitches. Like there is 8-bit weapons in the game. I think you get an 8-bit coin at some point. You can get one of them, but there's definitely stuff they fed into it. It's
8,
a blast.
16, and 32.
Yep. Right. Yeah.
And then, so those items aren't necessarily 8-bit items, but they use the 8-bit, 16-bit, 32-bit coins. And then I think for the final form, because it upgrades the weapon with each of those. For the one that requires a 32-bit coin, you also need an item called 8-bit Nightmare. And yes, the main game does have like secret areas that are not on the map that you can go to. So they don't contribute to the map exploration, but they have shards and items that you wouldn't otherwise find.
Right.
So,
and that's the thing too, is like the shards. I don't know if we said how many there are, but there are dozens of shards in this game, dozens and dozens of weapons. All the weapons feel differently. Like if you're using a great sword, totally different feel than from daggers or the kung fu shoes. Like they're just, the shards are all different. There's different types. There's summons, like henchmen that follow you. There's directional shooty ones. There's buff ones. There is so much. So when you're playing with a randomizer and you don't know what you're going to get, it's just a lot of tools are thrown at you that are fun to mess with and put together.
And the familiar shards vary quite a bit too. So there's like the fairy, which is very much like the fairy familiar from Symphony of the Night. She'll point out secrets. She can heal you if you have items that she can use, things like that. And then there's like one that's just a sword, but as it levels up, you also have it as a sword in your inventory.
Yep.
And so as it levels up, it gets stronger, just like the Sword Brothers in Symphony of the Night. And then there's one that's just like a Silver Knight. And I was like, oh, that's not exciting. But on my randomizer run, that's the first one I found. So I started using it, leveled it up. He blocks projectiles for me. He stands between me and the enemies and eats the hits.
Is it bro?
I was like, this is great. While he's sitting there smacking them with his lance, he's taking the hits for me and I'm not getting hurt at all. So, I mean, they vary wildly.
Yeah, there's quite a bit. The one thing I had an issue with, though, and I think you mentioned offline too, Wolf, is there's a few cosmetic DLCs that came out. There was one was like a tie-in with Shantae, so there's a Shantae outfit and some stuff from there.
Well, that's just in the game.
Yeah.
So that doesn't even require anything. That's just in the game. So now when you fire up a new save file, you have the Shantae equipment in your inventory.
Right. And the other one was the Succubus, which is hello DLC, because that's some TNA right there, which is funny because when the game first came out and people were modding it, those are the kind of mods they were doing. So it's interesting they released a DLC for this.
This is the Cammy of Bloodstained.
Very much so, inflated
Yes.
Cammy. But it's weird though because it's an item that you equip, like it's armor, it's chest armor literally that it changes appearance. But you had mentioned that it's not the greatest armor in the game, and if you change armor, you lose that cosmetic appearance, and that seems kind of a wasted thing.
Yeah, I thought it was strange that it's it's armor that requires being equipped. It's equipment that requires being on your character, eating up slots that you might want different items to fill.
Yeah.
So that's
gotta
what I
be
was
thirsty later.
Yeah, like it just seems weird that they would do that and not make it something that you can just toggle on and change what she looks like.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot in this game.
Maybe they made the active choice of you can either be thirsty or you can have real armor.
Or you could beat the game.
That's true. Challenge mode, maybe that's the idea. It's like because there was like
it's the
ladle
ladle
mode,
right?
It's the ladle run.
The ladle run.
Wow, the fucking ladle run. That's for you, November. When you listen, it's the Symphony of the Night ladle run.
I do love the fact that there's even a. This is not a huge spoiler, but it's fun when you come across it. There is a demon that can change your hairstyle.
Yeah, he's the scissor eye. He looks like he's like fucking Sweeney Todd or some bullshit.
Yeah,
like,
his name is Todd.
Yeah.
His name is Todd.
And he is a barber.
Yeah. I love it.
Is he down on Fleet Street?
I just thought it was funny because I was like, Todd is not a scary name. So I took a picture of it and sent it to my friend. Like, he's talking about how he's a barber and he's a demon and his name is Todd. And then my friend is like, did you find Sweetie Todd? I was like, I didn't put that together, but yeah, I guess so.
That's awesome.
Yeah, like the cosmetic stuff, dozens of things in this game. Like there's more in this game, and I don't know if that's just because $5 million later in the Kickstarter and they had the time and money for this or what, but there's just so much jam-packed into this Metroidvania. It does kind of raise the bar for me when I play other games like this. There's just, especially the items, there's just so much.
Yeah, it's really cool. There's also a system in the game. I guess I should mention this. So there's alchemy, like I said, where you can make equipment, but there's also a food preparation system.
Yeah, you cook.
And each food that you come across, the first time you eat it, it gives you a permanent stat boost.
Oh, is it permanent?
And it's permanent.
Oh shit.
So
okay.
For each food, you only have to eat it once to get the stat boost. After that, it's just HP or MP recovery. But it even shows you in the crafting menu for the food, if you've eaten it, you'll see, or in your own inventory, if you've eaten it, you'll see a little knife and fork next to it. Like, you've eaten this. So
I should pay attention.
It'll give you different stat upgrades. Sometimes it's a boost to experience. It's a boost to mana recovery. It's a boost to like luck or strength or intelligence, mind, whatever. But it's HP. Like there's all sorts of things it can boost. And they tell you what they'll boost the first time you eat it. And those are a huge boost to you playing through the game and not being underpowered, because it is pretty easy in this game to find your way somewhere that you are not ready for.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if I feel like I'm underpowered, I probably am.
I want to say yes and no. Mostly yes. In some cases, it might just be because you haven't upgraded your equipment in a while.
Okay.
Or you haven't eaten enough of the foods. Like, those are a huge help. And honestly, one of the first few bosses, I had to grind before I could beat them. Like, it was kind of a hockey stick with like the second or third boss. But then after that, it was fine.
It's my favorite.
But that's because it's
hockey sticks.
That's because it's a lot of weak enemies that are like easy to just barrel through and get to that boss. But if you start like trying to farm some of the equipment out of the enemies and make sure
Ah,
you've got better gear and drops, by
okay.
the time you go fight him, he's not a problem.
Okay.
It's like one
For
of those
me,
things you
when
don't
I've
think about just because you're cruising through the whole area,
Right.
and then you realize, oh, I need to grind these guys to get the shards from them or weapons or whatever they're going to give me so that I'm a little bit better boosted. So
Okay.
and sometimes it's
Yeah.
not grinding for other items. It's just going back to your inventory of shards and equipment and looking to see if maybe you should try a different build, right? Like the shards
Yeah.
can be quite a bit of a different gameplay style. Like some of them can be low damage, but they fill the screen in terms of what they hit. But sometimes you want that more localized attack shard. I remember using the chainsaw sword for a lot of the game, but when I got to certain bosses, it just wasn't cutting it anymore, and I had to switch up my shards. I already had a
Literally.
bunch to pick from. I just never played around with them, right?
So if
Yeah.
I'm fat rolling, I need to respec.
Yeah.
just get something that has a higher weight load and you'll be fine.
It also has another cool aspect where with the yellow shards specifically, they're considered passive shards that you equip, and they might bump a stat specifically
Mhm.
or make it to where within this circle radius you can see secrets, things like that. But if you rank them up, because you can enhance shards at the alchemist, if
Okay.
you rank them up to 9, just the passive shards, they actually become completely passive to where you don't have to have it equipped to get its bonus.
Oh, so
That's
you can
crazy.
And
actually have
then
multiple
take it off
equipped.
and
You can have
yep.
multiple equipped through that mechanism.
right. And then if you equip most of them, if you equip one at the same time as you've got it as an actual passive,
Mhm.
you get the double the bonus.
Okay.
So
It really sounds like you could
it's-
break the game in terms of your power level. I didn't realize you can go that in depth
Oh.
with the permanent upgrades. If I'd known that, I might have gotten through this game because I was struggling with a lot of the bosses.
Yeah, so like early on, you see passive shards as like double jump and things like
Yeah.
that, just a couple of
Uh-huh.
them. And then once I realized that, I was like, at the end of the game, I've got like 30 passives.
That's wild.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. So it sounds like, I mean, it's not shallow. It's not a shallow game at all.
No.
No,
No.
no, there's a lot of
Yeah.
depth to it for
Good.
sure.
Good.
And honestly, I'm probably going to play through randomizer a couple more times before I'm done with it. Because I want to see the other wacky stuff that's in it, and I want to see how my other randomizer runs will go, because it's just cool to see. It's very low barrier of entry to get the randomizer going. It's cool.
Yeah.
So Wolf will compete with my time playing Witcher 3 by the time he's done.
I was about to throw up my Elden Ring time and be like, okay, challenge.
You want to call that out? Because I know how much. I saw it.
You call me out. You can call it out if you want to.
I think it was 254 hours.
Yes.
Yeah.
So far.
Now
So
I got to
far.
look and see what my most played game on Steam is, and I think it's
Mine is
embarrassing. I'm
still
pretty sure it was
Zodiac
Rocket
Age.
League.
Mine's
mine's still Zodiac Age, Final Fantasy
mine's Arc.
12.
I think Warframe is for me. I think is up there.
I
It's
don't-
either Warframe or Skyrim, one of the two.
I don't think
I
I'll
would
ever
argue-
pass.
I would argue my times are skewed because there are times where I was streaming them and I took breaks and walked away and left them running. So 500 something hours on Zodiac Age seems an awful lot for somebody who didn't do everything, because I didn't. So
I got 633 hours in Terraria,
there you go.
That's another game. Yeah, that would do it.
but 1,500 in Rocket League. I was almost a journeyman.
Hmm.
Start getting that Rocket League trades money. No, I mean, like I said, this game is totally dripping in value. I mean, it goes on sale all the damn time. This DLC is new, totally worth the money. I think this is what you want in an indie title. It's not $60. There's loads of content. It's awesome to support something like this, and like if it is a franchise, I'm all for it. I do like I do like the DMX version, like Circle of the Moon, a lot too for what they are. But Bloodstained on its own is exactly what I wanted in a game. I just need to finish the damn thing.
Well, and if people continue to buy this, there's a good chance there will be a sequel too.
Yeah.
Absolutely. This would be something I'd go back and get on Steam so that I can play it on my Steam Deck again, because it is a lot of fun. It's a good game to have like in multiple.
I think that's why I have it twice, is because I wanted to play it on my Steam Deck. So
Steam Deck does all, man. Does it all.
Yeah, and like I said, it plays really well there. I that's where I've played probably 85% of my ritual of the night.
Very nice. Cool. Well, any other call outs, thoughts, things that we haven't talked about? We are at a little over an hour here, so
not that I can think of. There was one enemy in the game, and I'm not gonna point it out because it was a weird one to find. But if you find it, that one's a frustrating one to try and farm its shard because you can literally only spawn it once per visit to that area.
Oh, okay. Awesome. Okay. Well, I think we've put together an episode, gentlemen.
I think so.
I think so.
Cool. Anybody want to call out anything that they're doing?
Yeah. Chard and I recently did another episode of Super Podcast, Super Pod Saga podcast. I believe our episode is next week, I think, where we talked for 2.5 fucking hours about Final Fantasy, the entire franchise. You mean
I talked for 2.5?
Chard talked about the franchise.
I kind of carried that.
It was.
They got to 8, and I tried to
combo.
be chilled, and I was not. There was no chill in me for 8.
Yeah.
Go check that out. That was a lot of fun with those guys. And go give Super Pod Saga a follow as well, and subscribe to their YouTube channel as well. They're great dudes, and they're a lot of fun to hang out with.
Yeah, it was a good time.
We took over their channel once too, so
We did.
It was great.
Oh, the 4 of us did. Yeah. The entire.
Awesome. Anybody else want to call anything out?
I have an Elden Ring size hole in my heart since we beat it. We were successful in beating Rodon this last Tuesday, and I related it today to these guys as a summer fling, where you're gonna have a good time, but it's gonna come to an end, and I'm sad that it's over, and I have to find another itch to scratch. That just isn't. It just isn't. I don't know. It's just not going to do it. So what we're going to do is we're going to flip the script, and we're finally going to start the Remedy Connected Universe playthrough of Alan Wake, Control, Quantum Break, Alan Wake 2, and subsequent things. And we'll talk about the bridge between the American Nightmares. I'm not going to play that again because it's slow and it's boring. And I'm not playing Visage. I love you, Stress, but no. Yeah, we'll do that. And I'm actually going to be uploading my playthrough. I'll do it on Twitch, obviously, but we're going to do 30-minute snippets on here on Press B to Cancel. I'll upload the playthrough so you guys can follow along. If you're not interested in watching on Twitch, but you're interested in the story and the lore, we'll figure out how to get all that compacted onto here. And I'm still debating on whether I'm going to do the 30-minute snippets. Oh, you're just going to have to sit through the 4 hours that I stream the shit. And I don't know. We haven't decided yet, but you can come and check that out here, and also me on Twitch, www.twitch.tv/chardmonk.org. Come check it out.
Hey, Chard, if you ever want to go back to Elden Ring, you can do what Miss Mika did. Miss Mika recently beat Elden Ring on the PS5 and on the PC at the same time, using a dance pad and a PS5 controller.
Yep.
She beat it at soul level fucking 1.
Yep, I know.
If you want to go back and do something,
I'm not that good.
I think Chard should do a ladle run for Elden Ring.
At this
There's
point,
no
why not?
ladle in Elden Ring. I'd have to do it in Dark Souls 2. I don't know. Maybe I could learn how to do a Souls level 1 run on that and just cry the entire time. No, see, I want to enjoy my playthrough, so we'll figure it out. Elden Ring will be back. Don't worry. I'm not done with it yet. I'm just done with it for now. We'll go back.
It's the plague the gift that keeps giving.
It is the gift that keeps on plaguing. I want to beat Radon with everybody because I did it on my Steam Deck with a build that was OP as fuck. So I'm just gonna try not to do it New Game Plus this time and see how different the two are. That's really nice. I'm like sitting there going, God, I wish I hadn't done this on New Game Plus. Fuck. Why did I do this to myself? So, but yeah, it's done. It's done. No more Elden Ring for a little while, but you're gonna have to hear me talk about it because I love that game. So,
all right, well, gentlemen, I think it's time.
It's time to
Yeah.
talk about DJ Spinistar every Monday and Tuesday on Twitch.
Something
You're
like
right.
that. Yeah.
Go check
Yeah.
out our friend
Something like that,
Sinistar over
yeah.
here. Watch him spin some fat music on Monday and Tuesdays.
Yeah,
Please go
yeah,
give him
for
a
sure.
follow up.
Oh,
Well, apparently Wolf doesn't want to go, but that's cool.
Wolf's like, I'm done. I'm
He's
done.
like, you know what?
peaced
Episode's
out.
over. Later, bitches. I'm done enough. Go
All
follow
right.
DJ Spinistar, please, and give him your love and affection because he's a good
No,
dude.
I've been
He
having fun with it, so that's good. All right. Well, this has been a press B to cancel. We're not gonna stain your shirt with blood anymore.
That was weird. Sorry.
Hi, welcome back. We were just finishing it up. Grab your
Yeah, I
Tide
know.
pins
Yeah.
and your Tide Pods. Clean your
Oh, yeah,
shirts.
Yeah. All right, gentlemen. Thank you so much.